Hello everybody, Sawyer 189 here, and it's been a while since I've brought you a top 5 list, so I'm hoping to change that today. Today we're going to be going over my top 5 picks for my favorite archery related comic book characters. So for this list, the characters will be primarily bow and arrow users. They will be comic book characters, and I'm not going to be doing anything like Robin Hood or other characters that have comic books about them but are not originally comic book characters. And also, I'll be going over primarily the comic book versions of the characters. So, for example, characters that have movies or TV shows. I'll be going over mostly what makes them unique in the comic book versions. Number 5 would be Merlin, who is most commonly known these days on the TV show Arrow as one of the main antagonists of the series. But his comic book version is not quite as fleshed out. That's why he's this far in the list. But he is still a pretty awesome archery character. He's basically a bad guy assassin that uses arrows as his primary killing tool. He has a lot of training in different types of combat, but he usually resorts back to his archery skills. He's had many team affiliations over the years. He's been part of the 100 that's shown in the Black Lightning TV show. He's been a part of the League of Assassins. He's been part of the Injustice Society. And he's just been around for a while, and he's definitely gotten his teeth synced into a lot of different heroes and conflicts over the years. For number 4, we have Roy Harper, Arsenal, who is a very a dark character. He's a very tortured character. This guy has gone through some crazy stuff in his publication history. He's been a recovering drug addict many times. He's had some serious family dramas. Really bad love life, to say the least. And that's really what makes his character so compelling, is that he's had such a dark history, and he's been so close to complete and utter destruction so many times. Like his name suggests, he is primarily a bow and arrow user, but he can use many different weapons. He has been known to use crossbows, to use guns, knives, but he usually resorts back to his bow and arrow, which is the weapon that gave him his start in the comic book history as a hero. For number 3, we have Tarak, who is a character that some people may not recognize, but you should. He has had many homes over the years, as far as publication houses and companies that he's been part of. He's been a Go Key character, he's been a Valiant Comics character, he has been a Dark Horse character, a Dynamic Comics, many different places. And while details of his character have changed over the years, usually what stays solid is that he is a Native American that is pulled from his original time period in the Wild West to this fantastical land called the Lost Land, and the name changes, but it's usually a place full of dinosaurs and all kinds of manner of crazy monsters and dangerous threats. And he is thrown there with no real knowledge of what's going on. All he has is his survival and hunting skills or warrior skills, and he makes use of it. He is very good with knives and tomahawks and other such weaponry. He eventually gets to be using guns when he gets into modern day time, but he is primarily a bow and arrow user, and he is very, very savage character, a very brutal character. You kind of have to be a badass to be fighting dinosaurs all day long. For number 2, I have Oliver Queen, also known as the Green Arrow, the Emerald Archer himself. Green Arrow is a very he's a very staple character. He's been around forever, and though a lot of people may think that he's primarily just a copycat of Batman, I like to think that he's more than that. Yes, I'm sure he started off that way, as a lot of characters do start off as copycats. But as different writers have gotten a hold of him, different artists have gotten a hold of him, he has evolved much more into a different character. Most of the time, Green Arrow is known to be much more savage than Batman ever was, much more, ruthless. Over the years, he's had storylines where he is bare knuckles, using just normal arrows to rip people apart. He's also had his more gimmicky times when he uses crazy trick arrows and non-lethal tactics. But overall, he is always a bow and arrow user. He's always known to be like pretty much the go-to master archer of the DC universe. And trick arrows or no trick arrows, he is usually a force to be reckoned with. I've always enjoyed Oliver's basic storyline or origin story. Unlike Batman, who is a character that's driven and went out looking for training and to become better, Oliver wasn't looking for that. He was perfectly content being a rich, pretty boy, until he is shipwrecked on an island with no one to help him. He has to basically figure out how to become a survivor. He uses the bow and arrow primarily to hunt for food, and eventually that evolves into him becoming this badass archer character. So that's something I definitely like about the character. My number one pick is Hawkeye, Clint Barton of the Marvel Comics universe. Definitely my favorite. Everything from his original costume design, which some people think is goofy, but I've always liked it, to his personality traits and just his overall the demeanor is something I really enjoy in the character. He's one of the most driven characters in the Marvel universe. He always strives to be a leader. He always strives to be better than he can be, and it really shows in his character development over the years. For example, he's always wanted to be a leader of the Avengers, and he wants it more than anybody. So it always fights for it. He's been a leader of many different teams. He's been he's been a powerful presence within the Thunderbolts, within the West Coast Avengers, the Avengers themselves. And unlike most characters on this list, he is shown to have the ability to be very precise and deadly with many different weapons, projectile weapons specifically, other than bow and arrow. He has been shown to be able to, throw knives really well, be able to hit people with sticks and different objects. It's very interesting. Similar to Green Arrow, he does use many different trick arrows, usually different kind of arrow tips that are tucked away in his quiver that he can, activate with while pulling them out of the quiver. But he is, by usually default, a more of a military type of character, especially in the more recent history. He's usually part of Shield or part of the Avengers, some kind of governed team. Unlike Green Arrow, who is usually more considered a vigilante and against the law, Hawkeye is usually more on the side of the law. Usually, even though his character did begin as a criminal, way back in the early Silver Age. Also, another thing that's not really all that important, but I do really like is that Hawkeye is one of the only left-handed superheroes I can think of that's an archer or a marksman in general. That's really cool, and because I am left-handed and I understand how difficult it can be for left-handed people to be able to shoot bows. They really don't make them very much for us, and it's it is a challenge, and it is cool to see that there's a comic book character that that portrays your shortcoming or your so speak handicap. So there you go, guys. That is my top 5 picks for archery comic book characters. So anybody that really knows me knows that I'm a huge archery enthusiast. That I love the sport. I've gone to competitions. I have several bows myself. So it's always fun to be able to read stories of characters that do what you like to do, and you can almost kind of fit yourself in as the character. So yes, so it's always nice to see that there are characters that represent that particular skill set and field well. If you guys have any other ideas for top 5s you want me to do, let me know in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. Peace out.